Making her way to the ring from Venice Beach, California, the Destroyer, Amanda Steele.
As we ready for singles action, Byron, what can you tell us about these two competitors?
Well, I can say that both of these superstars come into this match incredibly hungry to prove their dominance here tonight. But as we all know, only one will walk away with their arm raised in victory.
And her opponent, from small town, USA, the Eagle.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's now time for our big steel cage match.
And I know both of these superstars are supremely tough, but you'd have to assume they're experiencing some butterflies here as we wait for the opening bell.
No more talking behind each other's backs. Now they are face to face.
And pretty soon, fist to fist. And there are few things more unforgiving than the cold steel of a cage match.
Harsh impact.
Before 2017's Extreme Rules, there were just 3 previous tag team matches where championship gold was decided inside a steel cage in the history of WWE special events. The Hardy Boys were in 2 of those matches. At Extreme Rules, in order to win the match, both members of a team had to exit the cage and have both feet on the floor.
The Hardys used their famous continuity to gain the early advantage until Cesaro and Sheamus utilized their devastating power to slow the pace of the match down. Both teams battled atop the steel cage, but in the end, Sheamus and Cesaro won the race to the arena floor to become new Raw Tag Team Champions. Beautiful technique.
That'll hinder your modeling career. Across the shoulders. A backbreaker. Well, that'll do some serious damage. Perhaps a powerbomb here, Corey.
That certainly seems to be the case.
I think she's trying to prove a point here.
Oh, nasty impact.
There may be no escaping this fireman's carry.
I don't know. Never say never, Cole. Ooh! According to historians, the twisted metal that we see as part of steel cages today dates back 80 years. To settle a dispute between competitors Jack Bloomfield and Count Pietro Rossi, The two met inside a ring surrounded by chicken wire. At first, these types of matches were referred to as fence matches.
Corey, you gave us an impressive history of the origins of the steel cage match. I'd like to point out to our viewers that from the 1960s through the mid-1980s, chain link fences were used to enclose the ring for WWE steel cage matches. A superstar could win by pinfall submission or by exiting the cage through the cage door or climbing over the top of the cage.
We should also point out, Michael, that the way to win a steel cage match can vary by match depending on what was agreed to before contracts to compete in the match were signed. Talking about history, at WrestleMania 2, WWE unveiled the redesigned steel cage with solid steel blue bars before returning to chain link mesh in the late 1990s. The best way to describe combatants clashing inside a steel cage is its battle of attrition. Sometimes a superstar is left with no choice but to fight fire with fire and do whatever they need to do in order to win the match. And sometimes it comes down to a superstar doing whatever they need to do in order to survive.
Byron, you touched on this earlier, but it's so important for a superstar to accept that there's nowhere to run and nowhere to hide in a steel cage match. That the conflict will be resolved within the 15-foot-high steel walls that surround the ring. And that losing a cage match can mean much more than a mark in the loss column. For some, it has meant the end of their career.
It's difficult to describe the damage that can be done to a superstar who competes in a steel cage match. We see the physical harm, but we don't see the psychological effects from being inside the cage. Make no mistake about it, Michael. The steel cage truly represents survival of the fittest. We talk about how important stipulations are in a steel cage match. If superstars sign a contract where the only way to win is escape the cage and have both your feet touch the floor, the competitors must have a plan. Especially since you have to be comfortable trying to escape through the cage door as you do climbing over the top of the cage and vice versa.
Looking helpless right now.
This could be the beginning of the end.
Corey, you touched on something moments ago that's so important for the combatants in a steel cage match to remember. A superstar must be able to think offensively to figure out how they're going to escape the cage. They must think defensively at the same time so they can prevent their opponent from getting out of the cage first and winning the match.
Well, a superstar must become comfortable with escaping the cage by both exiting the cage door and by climbing over the top of the cage. They must also be aware of their attributes and what's best for them. Let's just say if you're a giant like The Big Show, The Undertaker, Kane, or even Braun Strowman, it's preferred to exit through the cage door. The WWE Universe has seen the evolution of the steel cage in the enclosure known today as Hell in a Cell. The first time an enclosed cage was seen was in October of 1983 in the last Battle of Atlanta. The enclosed cage was seen a few years later in the War Games match from the NWA. There were even cages stacked on top of each other, like WCW's Tower of Doom.
Byron, we talk about the progression of steel cage matches and the type of structures that have been spawned from them. I need to point out that some cages have been electrified. One was made from bamboo in the form of a punjab. Looking for the win!
This might be it. When she gets in attack mode, look out.
Uh-oh. Oh, this is going to be nasty. This is going to be bad. Watch the impact.
Oh, my gosh. That has got to be it.
Dug down deep and gets the shoulder up.
Might have slipped there, Cole.
Oh, no. We know what this is. We've seen this before.
The rivalry between Ultimate Warrior and Rabbit
Tossed around like a rag doll.
Victory is on the horizon. Oh, look at ridiculous power. This one's over, guys. That's borderline dirty, if you ask me.
We know what's coming here. Corey, the WWE Championship match between the Ultimate Warrior and Ravishing Rick Rude was the second half of the double main event at 1990 SummerSlam. The rivalry between the Warrior and the Ravishing One was so heated that no one knew what to expect once the two men were able to battle inside a steel cage, which at the time was the most grueling match in all of WWE.
The Ultimate Warrior dominated early on with his incredible strength. Rick Rude turned the tables and used the steel surround. I think this is the beginning of the end.
Back and forth we go. This steel cage match is in the books.